Hey, this is Tracy Lewis with Stuff and Things. I am finishing up swaps, and I am now working on shoebox swaps that are similar to make and takes. I have to make 2 samples and 10 piece parts for fellow demonstrators to put together. So I am using these 2 stamp sets, Quiet Meadow and Sharing Sunshine. And I'm going to demo 2 things today. First, I am going to show you my tactic for bulk heat embossing. It's not exactly how I used to do heat embossing because I could not find the same replacement small containers to use, so I'm using whatever I found in the kitchen. And the items I'm using from Quiet Meadow are Thinking of You, the splatter, the text, and the big little flower sprigs. That was big little, new word. And for Sharing Sunshine, I am using this ray and the smiley face and the little dot. Okay, so here is what the card looks like, and I am going to share the embossing part. I've already embossed 10 of them, and now I'm working on some extras to have. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have gone with heat embossing, but I did. So I have this container. I used my embossing buddy and patted the inside of the container to eliminate as much of the static as possible. I have a spoon, and then I have my extras here all trimmed down. So I am going to stamp one up and then show you what it looks like when I emboss. And then the second demo I'm going to do is the sponging the color on the white heat embossed background. And I have been using this same folded sheet of paper. And you can emboss or use the embossing buddy to remove the static on your backgrounds if you want. I tend to not, because I don't mind a little bit of random powder to give it a distressed look. And these flowers actually already have a little bit of a distressed look to them. A lot of times when you do make and takes, you don't prepare as much, but we're not going to have things like the die cutter and the embossing tool at our event. So we have to prep a little bit more than we would normally have to prep. Now I'm doing the words. Also have more lights on than I normally have because I need to see what I am doing. Alright, so I have stamped. Now the nice thing is I've been doing these pretty fast, so in a couple of places you can see where the stamp edge hit, and you can just wipe that off with your finger. Because I don't mind the extra dots, but I don't want any extra lines. So hopefully you can see my surface is now dry embossed. Everything is staying in my container. Wherever you overflow, that's why I like to have this piece of paper stay so that I can pour back in any extras. And I have two brushes. I have this big brush that actually is meant for crafting, even though it looks like a makeup brush. And I leave the protective, it's a Nouveau brand, protective shield because it lives in with my pens and other tools. And then I even have a smaller brush floating around here to use for smaller cleanups. Alright, so I'm going to go away. I will get this heat embossed, come back, and we will do some sponging on it. Alright, I'm back. I've cleaned everything up. Here is the sample. And I'm going to show you how I sponged. So I've got my background here with the heat embossing done. I've got two colors, Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody. And I have a very well used brush here. So what I have found works the best is to not put a solid drop. Early experiments with this brush, if you put a blob of ink, it will blob in the center and make dark areas when you want them even. So I just do a squiggle, and I start at the bottom of the squiggle in a circular motion, load it up. I clean these brushes by just using scrap paper until all the color is gone. I will start in the bottom left corner because that's the corner I want to have the most concentration of color. This has been used on the others. I did not clean it, so it may turn out a little bit more Mango Melody than Daffodil Delight. And when the demonstrators are creating their backgrounds, somebody's going to be first and someone's going to be last, and probably the person last will have a little bit more Mango Melody than the Daffodil Delight. And I try to pick up the ink as little as possible and then get it swirling in circles. I may or may not need to add more Daffodil Delight. I am pressing with a good amount of pressure. It's not feather light or anything. I'm going to do one more little bit of the Daffodil Delight. Again, always starting in the corner that I want to have be the darkest. I do want a little bit on this off side and a little bit all the way to the top. Now we're going to go with the darker color. I go ahead and I put the darker over the Daffodil Delight. I haven't done it any other way, so I don't know if you would get a different color if I were to put it over on the dry part of the pad. This is a silicone pad, if I haven't mentioned it. I don't think I did mention it. And it works really well for putting on wet ink and then picking it up to work it. And it also does a really nice job of reversing a stamp, which I don't know that I have done a recent video of. So you can just keep working the ink as much as you want. And then the last bit of preparation I did for this background was splatter in Mango Melody, which I have my spot here. And I do want to concentrate it in the bottom corner. And then I do have in mind just some random, and I'm not very random. I know that I'm going to have this vertical leaf sprig going up, and I did purposefully add some speckles. I even added one way up here. So I'm using just one or two of the spots, inking them up. And I want it to be busier in the bottom corner. And I'm finished. So here is what one looks like plain. And again, the finished card, I have, oh, I wanted to share one thing. Here's what I'm going to do for all of them. I cut out these two from Daffodil Delight, and I made Daffodil Delight be the background behind the black. Here is what it looks like. And I want to measure, I used the bark embossing folder, and I am now going to measure the height of this. And I do want to point out that the 5.5, you'll see is this, let's get it right up there, this light blue line. And you'll see that because of using the bark, which is like a 3D texture, it shrinks the height of the cardstock just a little bit. So here is a base that is the full size. I made these the sideways open fold. I tend to always do tenths, and I know that most people do not do tenths, so I did not do tent folds, but it does shorten this cardstock that little bit. So I am considering cutting off the bottoms a little bit so that I will make sure that all of the bases line up. I'll be scoring them, so I'll go ahead and take and do the cuts of this 1/16 of an inch so that the bases line up. And I went ahead and I'm demonstrating to the demonstrators the reuse of material. I used the Daffodil Delight to cut these pieces, and then I did the embossing treatment, and it will also become one of the mats. So that is what I am hoping to convey to other demonstrators, is the reuse of materials, so you get every bit you can out of them. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns with this particular swap, please leave a comment in the video. Here again is the final version, and here is the non-matted version and the background that I demonstrated today. So anyhow, leave any of your questions here on this video or over on my blog. I will have all of the supplies used on my blog. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.